So welcome to the summer instalment of the Four Seasons Flora Society 2023. And we are absolutely in for a treat again with this one. So your box should have arrived by now, and open it up. You'll have a few flyers, including a little cherry one to add to your collection as well, if you fancy making a few extra bits and pieces. You'll have your usual wood wool that you had in your last one so that you can style your photography. And inside this one, you have not got multiple bags. Instead, you will find a tin. And this tin has been designed with kidney bean illustrations on it. And that's because inside, I'm very excited to give you a sneak preview of the colour beetroot. So you've got a 50-gram skein of the colour beetroot, and you've got some designs that use that colour inside this box. So you'll find in the bottom of your tin a little kidney bean pattern. So you have actually got a printed version of the kidney bean pattern. He's also in your digital version as well, so you can find that there. You've got your beetroot yarn, and then you've got one additional bag. And this is because the designs for this instalment use a lot of the colours combined within them. So what you've got inside your bag that they make is, first of all, your kidney bean. In fact, I've hidden him from myself. Here he is. So here is your kidney bean, and you will have plenty of spare beetroot yarn should you wish to make more than one of those. But then you will have one bag in order to make your rhubarb, and here is the rhubarb. So this is the rhubarb. Reminds me of Wonderwall. I think she's a superhero, this rhubarb, because it is a superfood after all. So this is the rhubarb. And then you've got a Kantakari, which is a Thai green aubergine. So you've got a little one of those. I have got some of the real veg apart from the rhubarb because I've eaten that, I'm afraid. I did grow that one myself and I've eaten that. You'll see it in your pictures. So this is a Thai green aubergine, which is an immature aubergine. It's not fully grown yet. That's how they're eaten. They've got a lovely bitter flavour. So that's one of those. You've got complex colour changing in that pattern, which I think you'll enjoy. Then you've got a Radicchio, which is an Italian veg like this, and that is that design there like that. So different techniques there. I think you'll really enjoy doing those ones, putting that almost skeletal shape on the outside. Then you've got your Mooli, which is a type of radish. I've only got a very big example here. I didn't grow this one. So this is a Mooli, which is a type of radish in terms of veg as well. And then that is the ones that you've got to create in this box. So you've got your rhubarb, your Kantakari, your Radicchio, and your Mooli, right the way across the collection. So inside your bag, you will have green, lime and cream to go with your beetroot because they all share different colours. I really hope you enjoy this box, not just the treat of using the rhubarb, but actually, once again, you've got lots of small snippets of different techniques. So in the videos that follow, I'll go through the things that are unique to those individual patterns, so you've got all the videos in one place. Please share your pictures as you make them. I absolutely loved seeing your pictures from the spring instalment. I think, like all of you, feel inspired to garden. The more I crochet veg, the more I garden the veg. I try to grow it. I'm loving the fact that it's inspiring lots of you to do that as well. So do make sure you share your pictures so that we can continue to inspire each other. Enjoy growing your summer veg. So I'm going to start first with the Mooli, and it's just really to show you two things: how to finish off the end of the body and then how to finish off the leaves. And what I will mention is the fact that I have added legs to all of mine, and you will have yarn quantity to do so in these colours. So I've added lime legs onto my Mooli. They are obviously completely optional, and I know that some of you choose to and some of you don't. So I'm just going to do the final stages of decrease. So I'm going to do DC1 and DC2 tog. To get myself down to 6 stitches. Then I'm going to do a round, decrease again, so you're down to 3 stitches. And the tip that I want to give you is when you are working just on 3 stitches and you're going through, sometimes rather than go beneath the whole of the V, I will just work one side of the stitch. So I'll just work the front loop. So if you are finding it hard when you're on 3 stitches to work them, you see how I've also got my hook upside down. So I'm almost putting my hook in with the hook bit facing downwards to hook that front loop up, and then it's much easier to be able to just crochet on this really tiny round at the end, which is what creates the tip. So one, obviously this is what characterises a radish, is that lovely, really skinny root that comes out the bottom of it too. And the third one is there. And then what you're going to do is chain 3, and then you break the yarn. And all you then do is you sew that up back into that end, and that gives you that lovely, really delicate, fine tip to this root vegetable. So once you've done that, the only other thing really, and this is the easiest one I would say in this box, is how I have done these tiny little bits of leaves on the end. And it's really to represent the fact that they're almost underformed, the leaves. The way that they tend to be grown, and you see them, is they're not big elaborate leaves, they're small little leaves like that. So what you've got is you've got 2 lime stems that you've made like that. So you've got a long one and a short one, and you'll sew them together onto the top at the end. But then just onto the top, what you do. So to add these leaves on, what you're going to do is chain 4 from where you are. And then we're going to double treble 2 into the next stitch. And when it says the next stitch, we're actually going to go through both sides of the round like that to close it off. So go in, wrap around your hook once, wrap around your hook twice. So you've got them like that. Then go in. And double treble is yarn over to the point where you've got 4 loops on your hook like that, and take them off in 2s. So that's 1, then a second one into that same stitch. Then we're going to double treble 3 into the next one, so go round twice again. 1, 2, and then we're going to treble 3 into the final stitch, so go round, like that, then turn. And we're going to front post half treble 1, then back post half treble 1 back. So what that means, front post, back post, if you've not done it before, is we're actually crocheting behind the stitches, behind the bars of the stitches that we've created on the row before. So I'll just show you what I mean there. So you turn, and then we're going to front post half treble. So to do that, you go round your hook like that, and then you come behind the stitch. And a front post, you come from the back forwards like that, so it pulls the stitch forward. So yarn over, and then through all 3. So that's the front post half treble, round the hook again. This time it's a back post half treble. So what you need to do is you need to come around the back and push it backwards like that, and then do a half treble. I'll just do that again. There we go. So a front post half treble, go around the hook, underneath to pull it through like that. Go again, this time a back post, so push that one backwards. And this is how you create a crochet rib. That's what we're doing really, is creating ridges in it. So underneath this is the front post, and then a back post, and then a front post, and then a back post, and then a front post. And that is the leaf complete, and it just gives you a lovely texture of front post, back post. Now I'd recommend doing it in this order, because we're going to be doing front post, back post again when it comes to doing our aubergine. So warm up on this one, because it's a little bit of practicing front post, back post, and then we're going to be using that to do the stalk. So what you can then do is just sew those into the end, and that is your mooli complete. So next, let's take a look at the rhubarb. So with your rhubarb, what you're doing is you're making a hollow stem like this that you need to put your stuffing in before you then crochet the base into place. And with the base that you've done, you have got, it's got an unfinished round in it, just to make it represent more that shape of the rhubarb stalk. So you've got a squarer, flatter edge, and then the curve on the other side. And when you are sewing that on, the way that I've done it is I've put the curve to the front and the straighter end to the back. It's entirely up to you the way you want to attach that on. But all you do is you put your stuffing in down the stem once you've finished. Don't overstuff because it is designed to be, again, quite fluid and flexible. And this one I finished off with beetroot legs like that you can see. So once you've got your stuffing in and you're happy with it, and there's no need to pull stuffing right the way into the lime stalks at the top like that. What you need to do is pop the base on, and this is something that I've used in quite a lot of vegetables when we get to the vegetable book. So chard, broccoli, quite a lot of the ones that are cut off at the ground. Asparagus would be the same. I've used this technique. What you do is you just line the two objects up like that, so the base and the stalk. You put your hook in through both of them. Now, I haven't got a long enough end on either of these, so you'd be better off using your ball of yarn if you have them left. But all you then do is you double crochet through both sides. So I've just slip stitched there to attach them together. Then what you would do is you go in through the last stitch on the stalk like that. Then you go in through the stitch on the base and double crochet them into place. So that just double crochets the two pieces together really neatly. Just make sure you've got your stuffing inside before you go round, and you double crochet all those together. Now, I have sewn the legs onto the front, just for those that like that kind of reference. I've sewn the legs onto the front of the rhubarb like that, so they're positioned with 2 stitches between them on the front when I've put them on. Now, when it comes to attaching the stem onto the leaves, all you need to do is use the colour change line that is within your rhubarb stem. So you see I can't see any lime on the back of this, so I've sewn the green leaf there so you can't see any lime onto the back of it, and then I've just positioned my 3 and gone along and sewn those all in. And I've got my face right up the top of mine. I opted this one to look like she has magnificent hair or a crown on, rather than doing the face further down. But the fun thing about the veg is, whether you're adding the eyes or not, adding the eyes adds a lot of personality. So you could try it in a different position if you wanted to. So yeah, all you do then is position those green ones in, and the lime one, should I say, onto your green, and then you can sew those into place like that. So that's a nice easy one, a longer make because you are using a whole ball of green to do that rhubarb leaf on the top, but you'll enjoy it because you're doing half trebles as well. So you get to do a few practice on different stitches rather than just the double crochet. So next, let's do our tie aubergine. And what we're going to be doing is complex colour changing in order to capture that lovely marbled effect that you see on the bottom of them. And this is something that we've not yet done in Flora Society in quite this way. So I want to make sure that we're all clear on how to colour change in a pattern. So I'm using different colours completely here, but it's the theory that will be all important. So I'm just going to start with, I'm going to get myself up to 12 stitches. So once you've got your 12 stitches, if in a pattern it states to double crochet 3 of one colour, then 2 of another colour, and that's the pattern that you're doing. So 3 of one colour, 2 of another colour. The important thing when you're colour changing is that you have to set up the colour that you're moving to in the last stitch of the colour one. Now that sounds probably like gog to goo if you've not done it before, so I'll show you in the actual pattern so you can see it. So I'm going to do 3 primrose, 2 magenta, 3 primrose, 2 magenta. So you would do 1, 2, and then in your 3rd primrose, so at the point where you've got your 2 loops on your hook like that as part of your normal double crochet, in your 3rd primrose, what you do is you bring in the colour you're changing to, you finish off that stitch by pulling it through in the new colour, and then you do your first stitch of magenta would be the one where you lead with that. So that's 1 magenta, but because we're doing a pattern of 3, 2, in your 2nd magenta, at that same point where you've got 2 loops on your hook, what you need to do is swap back to your primrose. You finish off that stitch in primrose because then you're ready to do 3 primrose again. So then you do 1, 2, and then in that 3rd one, you need to drop that one down, pick the other colour up. You finish off that 3rd stitch by setting up that other colour, and then you're back to doing 1 and then 2, and again you'll be swapping back. And it really is that simple, but it's very important to make sure that you're almost thinking ahead. So when it says to work 2 magenta, you've got to remember that you're setting up your magenta in that 3rd stitch of the primrose to make sure that you get lovely straight lines on your colour changes, rather than it will spiral if you do it later on, or you'll get a spot of colour. So you get a spot of the magenta over here in the primrose as you change colour. Now, when it comes to the threads on the back, as you could see there, all I did was drop it down and then pick it up. So you don't need to break the yarn each time, and you don't need to sew any ends like that. You just drop it down and you're nice and relaxed. So 1, 2, 3, and I just drop my primrose down, pick up my magenta, and finish that stitch off. And a big tip to stop yourself getting tangled between your 2 balls is, if you can and you've got enough space, put them on either sides of your body, and then when you drop them and you pick up the other one, you'll find that they don't twist or tangle together. So if you can separate those right out, if this is the first time that you've done complex colour changing like that, it'll be easier for you if you can spread them out so they don't twist together. So that's how you do that colour changed pattern on the bottom of the Thai green aubergine. And I've obviously gone for the legs in green on this one and the stalk. So let's do the stalk next. This is a bit more front post, back post, as we were doing on the top of the Mooli leaves as a warm-up. So when it comes to making the calyx of the Kantakari, what you need to do is start by double crocheting 6 in a ring. Like that. And then something that probably feels quite unusual is we're going to treble 2 into the next stitch. So we're going to go up to 12 as per normal, but using a treble rather than double crochet. And then what we're going to do is we're going to increase, but we're going to be using front post and back post. So the same as we just did, but in a slightly more unusual pattern because we're going to be increasing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pillars that you should have here. So what you need to do is first you need to front post treble 1, and then we're going to back post treble 2 around the next stitch. So front post treble 1 first, go round with your hook underneath that treble that you worked, the first treble that you worked. So underneath like that, yarn over and come through both. So that is a front post treble 1. Then a back post treble 2 around the same stitch. What we need to do, go round the hook like that, and then come around that next treble from the back forwards, knocking it backwards, and do 1. And then do the same thing again. So exactly the same thing from the back forward around the same stitch. That's doing an increase, but in the back post only. So then we're going to do a front post again. And then the same thing, do an increase, but around that back post like that. So push that backwards. Then once you've done that and you've completed going right the way around the circle, what we're doing then is we're going to work the star shape that sits on the top. So you chain 5 and then working back down that chain, slip 1, DC 1, half treble 1, treble 1, and then you miss 2 stitches, and by that it means missing 2 stitches off the edge of that piece that you did there. So miss 1, 2, and then you slip stitch into there like that, And that's what creates the stars that go all the way around the edge for when you sew that on at the end. So all I want to show you when it comes to the stalk on this one is the fact that you're going to be working front post, back post, so exactly what you've been doing on a couple of other pieces at the bottom of the stalk, but to make it decrease down, so get skinnier at the top to create that lovely shape. It asks you to miss the back posts out. And so you've got 4 front posts and 4 back posts at this point, but what you're going to do is you literally just ignore the back posts and work the front post. So if you're at that point, what you'll do is you'll work a front post there like that. You'll ignore your back post, which ordinarily until now you've been doing, and you'll just skip straight on to do your other front post, and that then retains the rib pattern, but it makes it nice and narrow. So it's decreasing, but rather than actually decreasing them, because we're not putting any stuffing in or anything like that, we just miss out the back posts and just go down to 4 front posts in order to make that get skinnier as it goes into that. So that should be all the techniques for that. The final thing is the Radicchio. So let's take a look at that now. So when it comes to making your Radicchio, this is the one that probably has the most unusual techniques in it. You're going to make a large beetroot shape as a base first. And what you need to do is stuff that and then gather those stitches and secure that end. So that's just as you normally would. And that is the top of the vegetable that you're gathering those stitches on. Then in your cream yarn, you will have made a core or a base, which is just a little 18 stitch disc. So once you've got that in, and I'm going to be good and snip as I go along so it's nice and tidy for you to see what I'm doing. So you'll make the separate base like this. And you need to sew that into place at the bottom. Now you can, if you want to neaten off that last stitch, just go in through the first one like that. And sew that on the top of your base. You don't need to sew it really well because we're actually going to be crocheting into it, so it will get secured as it goes along. So don't worry about sewing into every stitch. And you do want to retain the stitches around the edge because we're actually going to be crocheting in them. So just see how I'm crocheting around by tacking it in into the stitches down from the edge, not the actual edge. So there we go. I'm just going to secure that like that. And then what we do first is we're actually going to work triangles on first that we then, so cream triangles that we then base everything else off. So I'm going to snip those ends off again so it's easy for you to see. So you can slip stitch in anywhere, and this is symmetrical right now, so don't worry where that is. You can sew your face on afterwards, so you really can slip stitch in to any stitch you want to. I am going to be neat and tidy and go into the last one that I worked like that. So slip stitch in and then chain 15. So chain 15 like that, and then what you're going to do is take that chain and bring it up the body, and we're going to slip stitch in. Now what your vegetable is going to look like really is dictated by how far up you pull this chain and the tension of your chain. So if your chain is feeling very low down, you can always put a few more stitches if you want to, but I think what would be quite nice is the fact that they'll have a little bit of uniqueness on how long that chain is. So it doesn't really matter. It's not that you need to pull it up to a certain point in the design. Just lay your chain flat, and wherever it naturally comes to, then you're going to slip stitch in. But what you do want to have is a slight diagonal. So rather than it go straight up the vegetable like that, we're drawing a triangle. So you need to come over probably by about 3 stitches. If you have a little look at kind of the vegetable, if you imagine a straight line up, about 3 stitches across from where you slip stitched in. So just slip stitch into the top like that. And then we're going to come back down that chain working stitches. So we're going to slip 1. Double crochet 1. Half treble 2. And then once you've worked that last one, when it says miss 4 stitches, where you're missing them from is off the core at the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then slip stitch in like that. So that's your triangle in place, and then you slip stitch 2 more stitches off there, 1 and 2, and then you're ready to draw your second triangle. So go and chain 15 again. And this time you can use, rather than necessarily stretch it, if you want it to be identical all the way around, you can obviously use your stitches as a grid there. So make sure that you're into the same round that you were before. And then back down that chain. So what we're going to do is we're now going to represent the veins that come off those central cream triangles, and we're going to do it using long stitches, which is what you used in your rhubarb, it's what you used in your spring onion last time. But it's slightly more unusual this time because we're going to be moving outwards as well as upwards as we work them. So what you want to do is double crochet into a stitch approximately 2 stitches across and 2 stitches up, and it can be very approximate. Don't worry about where it's going, so go in like that. And to double crochet you'll need to yarn over and bring it through the fabric but not through the loop in one motion, so that then you can yarn over and come through the loop, then chain 1 to lock that into place. And then we're going to slip stitch back down into where you came from, just to make that as neat as possible like that. So I'll show you that over again. So we go 2 slip stitches upwards. So 1 and 2. So you're traveling up that triangle. Then come across again diagonally. Make sure your loop's nice and long and relaxed like that so it can draw that triangle for you. Yarn over and come through there, through the 2, chain to lock that into place, and then back down into the vein stitch that you came from, like that. So then go 2 more up again, across, back down into where you came from. Then once you get to the top, you do exactly the same thing coming down the other side. And that is how you work around the edge of those triangles, adding on those veins. Now, if you find that difficult and you're not pleased with how it looks because you find it a little bit messy, the other way that you could do it is you could actually embroider them on if you wish. So if you're happy with the triangles as they are, you could opt just to embroider some veins in either side to finish off that effect. But I quite enjoy the fact that there's no sewing up and that you can do it in one go by working around it like that. So then the last thing to do really is to add the leaf tops on. This is really easy. What you're going to do is go in between your triangles like that. So you slip stitch in and then you're going to work the stitches up to the top. So all you're doing is working the stitches directly in the fabric like that. Go slip stitch into here and go into the middle, into there and then into the middle, and then sew all your ends together to complete those leaves when you've finished. And this one, I found he looked best when his eyes and his mouth sat just in between 2 of the veins, but obviously you could position it either side. You could go either side if you wanted to, but the way that mine is sewn up is so he's got what looks like a little bit of a Mohican coming out of the middle of there with those leaf tops, and his face sits nicely in between the 2 veins either side. And I've gone for green legs to finish him off. So I hope that gives you all the techniques you need to make your summer boxes. Please share the pictures. I can't wait to see them.